guys, it's time for another live stream from us on a Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm trying to get into the show here.
He's always like a few minutes behind.
Yeah.
Well, you should put it down. You're being on the show. We need your undivided attention.
I got all kinds of shit I'm fucking juggling with.
Yeah, I know the feeling, but you gotta like concentrate on something.
We saw Exorcist the beginning last night.
This was so confusing, you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just picked this at random. I was scrolling through Tubi, and I was just kind of like, well, we need a movie you haven't seen before. They have a lot of good horror movies on Tubi, but we've already reviewed most of them. So I'm kind of scrolling through, and I was kind of like, oh, there's like a few possibilities. And then I was like, oh, Exorcist at the beginning. I was like, did we see that? I was like, wait, I don't think we saw that. And it's like, I'm pretty sure we didn't review that. So I told him about it. He's like, okay, let's watch that. So we start watching it, and I told him, I said, this movie doesn't seem familiar, but the main actor, Stellan Skarsgård, playing Father Merrin, is very familiar. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, did I just see this movie and I just completely forgot about it? So we started doing a little bit of sleuthing. And I think this is the first time this has ever happened in the history of Hollywood. Yeah, the first movie that they made, which was directed by Paul Schrader, was Dominion, prequel to The Exorcist, which is like the dumbest subtitle of all time. Yeah. That was the movie that we saw.
Yeah.
I don't remember if we reviewed it or not, but we for sure saw it like probably a year or two ago. And the same actor played Father Merrin. So they did Dominion, and I guess the studio heads saw it and were like, this kind of sucks. I don't think this is going to fly. So they fired the director, hired Renny Harlin, and said, redo this movie. They used a little bit of the footage from Dominion, but it's like kind of the same story. They like moved a few things around. Because I think it's based on... Didn't William Peter Blatty write a book called Dominion that was kind of like prequel? I can't remember.
You're asking me.
I think he did. But so I think it's kind of loosely based on that. So the story's kind of similar. And like I said, Stellan Skarsgård is in both of them, playing Father Merrin. But all the other actors are different. So they changed the story up and rewrote it. Because I guess what happened was Paul Schrader's version, which we did see, and I remember it being okay, but I don't really remember that much about it.
I remember liking it.
Yeah, it was all right. I think that the reason the executives didn't like it was because they thought, well, it wasn't horror-y enough. Yeah. So when Renny Harlin came in, they said, horror it up some. So that's what he did. But then they released Renny Harlin's version, this one, Exorcist the Beginning, and it tanked. And it got super really, really bad reviews also. And so then they gave Paul Schrader a bunch of money and said, hey, finish up Dominion and we'll release that one too, even though it's essentially the same movie. And then they released that one, and that one didn't do good either.
Yeah,
although it seemed to get slightly better reviews, but it still still tanked at the box office. They spent $80 million making essentially two movies that they're not exactly the same, but they're very, very similar. The story is similar.
Yeah, this one when it came out was pretty much universally panned. It got Razzies and stuff. It flopped, but I liked it. Fuck them.
I didn't mind it.
It's kind of a classy feeling movie. It's real well made. The writing's real good. The acting's really good. But I see why they gave it a Razzie at the very end, in the final fucking Exorcist kind of fight between the damn demon. It does kind of lose its cool a little bit.
It kind of fell off the cliff of cheese.
Yeah,
it got
a little cheesy. And it was totally, it fucked up. It was totally different from the tone of the rest of the movie, which was kind of serious, almost grounded in reality to a certain extent. Or, they were trying to make you believe that this is really happening. Some supernatural shit. And it gets to the end and it gets fucking wild. But a lot of it is just the score that was happening in the background and the edit. It could have easily been fixed by showing less. Had they just cut some shit out of it, just a couple seconds
out of the end,
and changed the music, I think people would have liked it a lot better.
Because honestly, the whole time we were watching it, Oscar just said Dominion is more eerie than this one. Yeah, I kind of feel like Dominion was like a more serious movie, whereas like I said, this one they specifically said we need more horror, and it does have that. There is a lot more like fucked up shit in it, and in you know, a bunch of kids getting killed and babies covered with maggots and shit like that. So there's a bunch of that kind of stuff. But I think that from what I remember, Dominion was more tonally consistent. This one was kind of had the same tone to it, like being serious, like, you know, a very serious film, but then at the end I think it went way too far into the horror-y direction, where it almost became like, I don't want to say it almost became funny, but it would just teetered like on that line. I think they should have just reined that in a little bit. I did like that they tried to tie it in with the original Exorcist at the end, with the woman getting possessed, because I think in Dominion the little kid was possessed, because that goes back to the lore in the book and shit like that of Father Merrin like treating a little African boy. So in Dominion it actually was a boy, but then in this version they switched it up and made it the woman, the doctor, and she was the one possessed. And I like that they tried to tie it in with the original Exorcist by giving her like the, you know, the Linda Blair, the Pazuzu makeup and like a voice similar to that, and have her like spewing profanities and stuff like Linda Blair did in the original one. But I see where they were going with that, but the problem is that The Exorcist is so culturally ubiquitous and has been parodied so many times that I don't know if you can do that without it coming off a little bit like a parody.
Yep, it never should have had a girl or that woman be possessed. It should have been a man. It should have been bigger and more intimidating and even more evil. Because there's no way you're going to be able to fucking redo what happened with Linda Blair. You have to go in the opposite direction.
Yeah, I mean, because back then, like I said, it was scary back then, but everybody and their mom has seen that movie.
They saw that already.
And so, and it's been parodied. Shit, even Linda Blair was in a parody called Repossessed with Leslie Nielsen, where she was doing a parody of that character. Like in I think it was the early 80s.
Yeah.
So
one of the priests should have been possessed, or one of the guys on the dig should have been possessed, and he should have gotten fucking big and intimidating. Like just a big old male demon, you know. That's what they should have done. You can't possess that many women in a row. But here's the thing. It was better than Exorcist 2.
I feel like most movies are better than Exorcist 2. Well, the thing about it is that Exorcist 2, I guess when they made Dominion and / The Beginning, they said, because in Exorcist 2, I think they mention, and this might have been from the novel too, I haven't read the novel in a long time, but in Exorcist 2, Father Merrin, like they mentioned that Father Merrin had chased the same demon out of a kid. Like I said, his name was Kokomu or something like that, like an African boy, in 1935. Now that is not consistent with the story in this one. Like in Dominion, he does go to Africa, but I think it's 1949. It's after World War II, right? Yeah. Because there's a thing about Nazi concentration camps in there. So I think it's after World War II. And so he goes there, and in Dominion, he does chase the demon out of a kid, but his name's not Kokomu. And in the second one, like, there's a kid that you think is possessed by a demon, and his name's not Kokomu either, but it's kind of like a red herring, and then it turns out that the doctor woman was possessed the whole time, because I guess they wanted to switch it up so it wasn't exactly the same as the other one, so it'd be like, hey, I already saw this movie.
Maybe that did happen in 35. We weren't in 35. We were in 45.
It was 1949.
49.
It was 1949.
So maybe there's a prequel to the prequel.
Somebody still needs to make that movie.
Right.
Yeah, they're talking about a completely different kid. It just like so happened. Thank you, Zach. The cinematographer on both versions was Vittorio Storaro, who did Apocalypse Now and Last Emperor, and a lot of Giallo. And even this looks crappy compared to his usual work, which is kind of sad. It's not that bad, though. And honestly, I had forgotten. I knew Renny Harlin's name. I remember that he was married to Gina Davis back in the day. I remember that. And he did that movie with her as a pirate that kind of tanked. Yeah. But then I was like, what else did he... I know that he directed like a fuck ton of stuff. So I looked him up. And he did Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, Adventures of Ford Fairlane. You remember that one? Mm-hmm. With fucking... What's that fucker's name? That comedian?
I don't know.
Die Hard 2. Cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Long Kiss Goodnight, and Deep Blue Sea, which I remember was... Okay.
You just been talking about that comedian guy who pretended to be a Guido.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the fuck was that dude's name?
I don't know. He was a flash in the pan.
Yeah, well, yeah, I remember. Well, it was a long flash, I remember, but it's like, I can't remember his name. What's his fucking name?
I don't know.
I can see his face and hear his voice. I just can't I can't think of what his name is.
Andrew Dice Clay.
Thank you. There you go. That's it. Getting old. It sucks, folks.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
He's all forgotten.
Yeah. But yeah, so like I said, it's not crazy because even the original movie and the original novel, you know, Father Merrin comes in and he's old and he hints around that he's had this fascinating history and he's encountered this demon before. So this seems like ready-made for a prequel. So it wasn't like a dumb idea. It wasn't like they were, you know what I mean? And it would, you know, and I think it's like an interesting story to explore. So if you haven't seen this movie, what happens in it? Like I said, it's set in 1949. Father Merrin has actually lost his faith. He was a priest, and then he says, fuck the priesthood, after, I guess he was in the Netherlands and, like, the Nazis occupied, and he ended up having to, like, this guy came and, like, made him pick, like, the people in the town that he would shoot, so otherwise they would shoot the whole thing. And so he's, like, super guilty about it, and he's like, where was God during all that? Fuck the priesthood, like I said. So he decides, I'm gonna go be an archaeologist instead. And then he gets hired to go to this place in near Nairobi in Kenya, and they're like, we found this weird as shit thing that's like a Christian church, but it's like way older than, that was like 1,500 years old, and it's like way before the Christians got there, and we can't figure out why it's there, and some of the statues in there are weird, and then it's like almost like new, and then they buried it. So they're like, you need to go check that out. So he goes, and he's with this younger priest from the Vatican who seems to know some shit that's going on, even though he says that he doesn't know what's going on. But it's like really weird. There's all these like graves, and they say like, oh, all these people died of a plague. And he goes down into the church, and he's like, the statues in there, it seems kind of sort of like a Christian church from that era, but then he's like, all the statues, like the angels all have weapons that are pointing downward, and then somebody's been in there and they hung like the Jesus on the cross thing, like they hung it upside down, like from the ceiling, and then like all the locals think the place is cursed. It's like they can't get some of the diggers, like the dude that was running the the dig, he went nuts and they had to send him to like a sanitarium, and there's all this kind of crazy shit happening. And you know, so Father Merrin is like, obviously, like I said, lost his faith. He doesn't believe this is demonic. He just thinks that, you know, he doesn't think all this crazy shit's going on. He meets this woman that's a doctor, and she's trying to help him all out, but, you know, they're quote-unquote superstitious, even though it turns out they're not superstitious because there really is an actual demon. So, and then he goes, like, underneath the church, and they find that, I like that they used the same statue, the same Pazuzu statue that was from the original movie. Like, he finds it like underneath the ground. So this like, the movie, like you said, you do kind of have to pay attention to it, because the story is, you said the story was a little convoluted.
Yeah, a little bit. Sometimes.
Which it is kind of, but I mean, you can keep up with it if you kind of pay attention to like all the stuff, but a lot of stuff does happen in it, and you have to kind of like listen to a lot of the conversations, because there's a lot of shit about. But, you know, what the upshot of it is, and I don't remember if they mentioned this in Dominion or not, but it is mentioned in Exorcist the beginning, that this church was built on top of the place that they believed that that's where Lucifer fell from heaven. I don't know if they brought that up in Dominion or not.
It's like a legend. They were trying to confirm it.
Yeah, so it's like, this is like the evilest place ever, and so they had to slap, so there was like the Pazuzu shrine down there, and then the church came, and it's like, we gotta slap this church on top of this shit, because we gotta seal in that evil, you know what I mean? Like some spiritual Tupperware action. So they're trying to seal it down under the earth, and then they buried that church just for like extra... I don't know, like extra protection, I guess. But then these fucking archaeologists came along and said, hey, let's dig it up. And all the local people are like, no, you're going to release all the curse. And that's exactly what happens. Like there's all kind of, like a plague kind of thing starts. Like that one character, was he like the second in command of the dig? Because the guy that was the head of the dig, he like went crazy, right, and started drawing Pazuzu on everything, and then they had to send him to like the mental hospital. And then there's this other guy who's perpetually drunk and has like boils all over his face and is constantly trying to mac all over this this doctor woman who is just kind of like way too nice to him, I think, but I don't know. she's just kind of like.
I think she was. They were kind of.
Get off me, creep.
Kind of almost borderline frenemies because they were working together too. So she was kind of laughing, laughing it off.
She's like, well, he's so drunk I could probably just like push him over if he gets like
he's just trying to get
if he gets too antsy.
Doctor, I got this swelling down here. You think you got anything you can put on it?
Yeah.
She just,
I was like sulfuric acid, perhaps.
She just
I mean, that's what I would have said, but because but she didn't say that. She was just kind of like, "Oh, you're so funny." And I was just kind of like, well, I mean, and I guess it was set in 1949, and you had to put up with a lot of bullshit back then. You couldn't really like fucking.
No, you still
say
put it
anything
on. Go down to the back of the bar. They're still doing that.
No, I know. I'm just saying that.
You're like, baby, I tell you what, this and this is you never handle this. I got on that and break it. They shit like they just give it right back, and they go, that's.
No, I'm just saying that she didn't say anything
back. She's
back.
good looking and they're ugly. That's the difference.
No, I was saying that she didn't say anything back to him. Maybe because she thought like this is her job at this dig and she didn't want to like cause trouble and shit.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, so
she was just
and he gets like grosser and grosser like so I will say that Renny Harlin, he did like, they told him, inject some more horror into this story, and he did do that. I mean, there's some fucked up shit happens in this. Like a little kid gets torn apart by hyenas. They're kind of bad CGI hyenas, but hyenas nonetheless. And he does get like pretty graphically torn apart, so there's that. Little kid gets shot in the head by Nazis at point blank range, so there's that. And then turns up as kind of like a vision or a ghost like later on. You get to see a baby get born that's dead and that has maggots all over it, so there's that too. So it's pretty gory, and I think, and actually like the drunk guy with the boil face, what the fuck? Oh, that's right. They find him. Well, they find his teeth. Right? They go in the bar, and he was like, killed by something. Like you don't see what it is. He just turns around and goes, "Oh shit," you know what I mean? And then like they find later some of his teeth like embedded in the top of the bar, almost as if he like was biting or something like that, and somebody like pulled him away. And then later on, they go into the underground church thing, which actually they've dug out, so it's not underground anymore. But they find him in there, and somebody has basically like hollowed him out. Like he's like, it's almost kind of like, you remember that scene in Silence of the Lambs where Anthony Hopkins like escaped from the thing and he took that cop and did he just like took all his fucking guts out and like hung him up on the shit, like up by the ceiling. It looked kind of like that, but actually even gorier because it's just like the middle of his stomach was just like a big fucking hole and it's just like all dripping and everything like that. So there is like a lot more gore in this. But like I said, toward the end, when you have kind of like the big battle of Father Merrin finally getting his faith back, now that he actually like finally gets to the point where he's like, okay, this demon shit is real. And he's also started to develop some feelings for this doctor. And when he finds out, like he kind of deduces that actually she was the one that was low-key possessed the whole time, and they were like making you think that it was the kid, or the demon was making you think that it was the kid. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
But it was actually like the doctor the whole time. So he actually like gets his faith back and does like the battle with the demon. And like I said, I did like that they sort of made like a callback to the Linda Blair Pazuzu thing, because like the makeup looks similar. And it looks good, I thought, like with the yellow eyes and the scratches on the face and everything like that. And she has like the voice and she says some of the same kind of stuff. But like I said, I kind of wish they had reined that in a little bit, because they do have a thing where she like, climbs all over the cave walls, and they do it like in CGI and it doesn't look. I mean, it was 2004, so a lot of CGI from 2004 hasn't aged all that well.
It all looked bad.
So it wasn't just this movie. I'm not just picking on this movie, because like I said, the hyenas in this are CGI also, and they also look crappy. But in 2004, it was really difficult to do furry animals that looked realistic. So I'm not gonna like shit on it too much, but I do kind of wish that they had just like, I don't know, because I didn't mind that idea, And I think in particular, the very last sequence where she was like running at him, like down that cave, like the corridor or whatever. And, he was like yelling the prayers at her. And it was kind of like green screened and weird. And it's just like they kept like doing a close up of him, like yelling the prayers. And then she was kind of like coming at him with the hair, and it was kind of fakey looking. And when we got to that point, because up to that point, we were like, I wonder why this movie gets like shit on so much. This isn't bad. It's like, I've seen a million worse. But then we got to that scene. I'm like, oh, okay, now I think I see what they're talking about. But it was just the very last part.
Yeah, in the final 10 minutes, there's a tonal shift that the movie doesn't recover from, and it ends kind of like on up notes and shit, and you're like, this movie. It shouldn't have ended like that. It should have been pretty dark through the whole movie, but it's just it could be fixed. They just didn't.
Yeah, because most of it is fine.
Yeah.
Really, the only part that made me think, oh, now I see what everybody's talking about, was like the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, and it was only a few seconds of footage and improper score, which fucked up the tone.
Yeah, because it had been very serious up to that. Like a serious movie, like I said, it had some fucked up horror shit happened in it. It wasn't fucking around, It killed a bunch of kids. Yeah. It was real bloody. And but it was still like a serious movie that was like, going into like serious shit, and the acting was really good and everything like that. It just went too far in the cheesy direction, like right at the end, and then it went kind of a little bit like sappy.
Yeah.
Like right, but it was right at the end. It was right at the end. So, like I said, that could be re-edited very easily. The rest of it was totally fine.
I don't know why they did that.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
Oscar said, I always wondered about that scene. Why did that guy develop boils on his face before he died? See, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure it was adequately explained, but I assumed that because he was kind of one of the main guys that was going in and out of the church, I thought that proximity to the church was going to give you like some effect of demon possession, because if like some of the other diggers and stuff like that like the locals, like a couple of them had like epileptic seizures and shit like that, and like I said, that baby was born that was dead and had maggots all over it. So I just assumed that like the evil was like seeping out into the area, and because he had gone into the church maybe more than anybody, like he got affected more than anyone else did. Because like I said, there was a story that like, oh, all these people here, like all these graves or whatever, all these people died of plague, which turned out not to be true. But one of the locals says to Father Marin, it wasn't a plague. It's like, it was demon shit, and that's what's going on right now. But everybody just said it was a plague because that's what they thought it was. So I'm guessing that it was demon shit, but because it was boils and stuff, everyone just said it was a plague. So that's what I thought. I don't think they explained it, but that's what I was assuming. You know what I'm saying? Gramthars says, Gramthars joke of the day. It takes 100 nails to make a crib, but only 1 screw to make a baby. That's right. Yeah. That's such a dad joke. Is that a dad joke? I guess technically.
Yeah. Gramthars is also saying that there's a video of a tank fucking blowing up a dude in Ukraine. It's not one dude, it's a bunch of dudes. They come up, there's some improvised infantry unit. They come out, walk out into the open. They see a Russian tank, they think it's a Ukrainian tank. Then the tank bears down on them. When any personnel round blows them all up. Kills about 7 or 8 of them, it looked like. They're getting ready to attack Donbass. The Russian troops have come out of refit. They were resting for 4 or 5 days, putting shit back together. They're getting ready to hit Donbass the next couple days. It's going to be wild.
Gramthars says, speaking of perpetually drunk, tomorrow morning Gramthar is flying to Bend, Oregon for the funeral of a buddy who drank himself to death at age 51.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. We were talking about someone, one of your relatives that drank himself to death.
That was my uncle.
Yeah.
That was my dad's sister's husband.
We were just talking about that the other day.
He was, drank himself to death on purpose. He got, they retired him from his job. They made him take retirement. They got sick of his jokes. He's posting racy jokes and shit that went over real well back in the 70s or 80s, but fucking in the 2000s, they're like, no, we can't have that around the fucking... He worked in a refinery, oil refinery down there. And, they made him take his retirement. And he went home and says, fuck it. The kids are gone, raised, and my job's gone. I'm just going to take this check if I could drink myself to death. He went to the hospital 2 or 3 times. They're saying, you're drinking yourself to death. You leave me alone. I'll do what I want to do. So he got another girlfriend, fucking moved out of the house. Yeah. He got another girlfriend, moved out of the house, moved into the camper that was in the backyard. He and his girlfriend was a bum. And they stayed up in there and drank until he died. And then
well, like I said,
my aunt kicked the bum out. She's
everyone's
like,
got to have hobbies.
Yeah, you got to get out of here. Yeah.
Nice to find somebody to share your hobbies.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Well, they hadn't really been together in decades anyway, and he was so drunk he couldn't sleep with that bum. They were just friends, drinking buddies, living in that damn camper.
That's
drunk.
what I mean. It's just sharing hobbies.
Yeah. He was funny though, man. I liked him. That was Uncle Wilson.
Oscar said he went out doing what I wanted. That's exactly what I said.
Yeah.
When I was talking to him.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I guess he went out doing what he loved. That's something.
Yeah. Wilson was an alcoholic. He was born an alcoholic, but he got off of the booze so he could complete his career and raise his children. He did that for like 20-something years. And then fucking when that job was gone and the kids are gone, he's like, fuck it, I'm going back to drinking. And he literally drank himself to death, knowing he was drinking himself to death.
Just like Nicolas Cage and Leaving Las Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah. He was checking out. He was sick of it.
Well, I guess there's worse ways to go. You know.
He figured he was old and he didn't really have anything to look forward to, so he was gonna fucking get high and get the fuck out of here. Everything was paid for.
Slasher Fred said, in the original, there's a dream that Father Karras has about his mother. Yeah, I kind of wish... Yeah. Did they ever make anything about Father Karras? Because he's kind of an interesting character as well. But it seems like it's always about Father Merrin. I guess because Father Merrin came into The Exorcist already an old guy, even though I think Max von Sydow was only 40-something when he shot that. They put, like, old age makeup on him. But he came in as an old guy, like, with supposedly storied history and mysterious history and stuff. So I can see how there's, like, a lot more to mine there. Because I do kind of feel like Father Karras, they did kind of give some more of his backstory. Because I feel like The Exorcist was kind of, yes, it's about the possession, yes, it was about Linda Blair, but it's kind of about Father Karras, too. You know what I mean? Jason says, these prequels should not end on a positive note. We all know what happens in Iraq. Yeah, it's like, it wasn't so much that this ended on a positive note. It was like, well, I mean, spoiler alert, but the woman that was possessed, she dies. No. So he doesn't save her. Like, I guess he gets the demon out her, but she dies anyway. And so, you know, I'm guessing because that's the thing. He, like, battles this demon, and I guess he defeats it for a while, and it goes into stasis. And then it, like, pops back up at inopportune times and is like, I'm going to go fuck with that priest again just for shits and giggles.
I just think that... I know how studios are. I mean, they came out with The Exorcist. It was a huge hit. They're like, we got to make another one because we'll make money. But artistically, they should have just shut the fuck up after that first one. You just don't talk about this ever again. You just let that shit sit. Because that is a classic movie. It's fucking epic.
Yeah, and it didn't need a sequel necessarily.
And it didn't need a prequel. It told you everything it needed to tell you and it still keep you in wonderment. I'm like, damn. You know what I mean? The more you talk about that, the less scary it's going to be.
Yeah, everything doesn't have to be, like, over-explained. But like I said, I know...
Just like Terminator.
Yeah. I mean, I know why they do it, like I said. Well, you liked this. This made a bajillion dollars, right. So we're going to make even more money. Like, and people still go see them, so they're not wrong.
It's very, very rare that sequels work out.
I will say...
Very rare.
Even though you can say, like, The Exorcist didn't need a prequel, I would argue that if you're going to make anything, I think a prequel would have been is a better idea than a sequel. Because, like I said, Father Merrin, he's a character that was introduced. You didn't know a lot about his backstory, but they just hinted at it. And, you know, there's something you could explore there where he's fought the demon before. That's a good idea. So I don't mind, you know, the idea of a prequel. But I will say, though, that the prequels of both Dominion and Exorcist the Beginning were for sure about 100 times better than Exorcist 2 The Heretic. That's for goddamn sure.
Even though that shit was a shit show that sometimes was decent to watch, just to see fucking Richard Burton's fucking drunk ass mumble his way through this fucking scene with that fucking machine on his head and fucking him doing the hypnosis. And
that was another movie that was like simultaneously really, really ridiculous and really, really boring.
Yeah, it kind of was.
You know what I mean?
And they tried to go somewhere new with it, but no. Most sequels are cash grabs. Most of them. It's very rare that it works out. The Back to the Future's trilogy worked. The Star Wars original 3, even the prequels weren't that bad, but the original 3 worked.
Well, because that's a
Star
much
Trek
more
stuff worked.
I mean, stuff like that's a much more expansive story. That's a much more epic.
Right.
I mean, The Exorcist was essentially about a girl getting possessed and, you know, a priest like getting their faith back and blah blah blah. This is a smaller story, so that doesn't really need to be expanded upon to any great degree.
There really should have been only a couple of those Predators movies, a couple of them, and I've watched them. Man, Predator and Predators when they're on the alien planet. That's the best ones. The AVP ones were okay.
I liked Predators better than the AVP movies.
Yeah. Predator 1 and Predators.
Yeah.
Fucking are good movies, real good. The first one's just great, though, you know. RoboCop 1 and 2. 2 was pretty good, too. Terminator should have only been Terminator 1. There should not have been a Terminator 2. Some people are like, what? Yeah, there should. Go back and watch Terminator 2 with the skeptical eye. And it's a great action movie, but it is not the horror movie Terminator 1 was. Terminator 1 was classic. They should have just left it like that. They shouldn't have known anything more about the other timelines. None of that don't expand that shit. Just stew in it. Just go, damn, damn. You know, that's what you were meant to do. You weren't meant to see the future and all that shit. And meet Skynet and then be disappointed. You know, that was not supposed to happen.
Well, yeah. I mean, we've talked about this a lot. It's like a lot of times, particularly with horror.
Yeah.
You know, the more you leave shit alone, more you leave things to people's imagination.
Yeah.
I think the more fondly it's remembered. Because you don't need to over-explain everything.
Yeah. The Alien franchise. Alien 1 and 2. Blade Runner. Prometheus 1 and Prometheus 2, which they called Aliens 4 or some bullshit like that. Those kind of work. A lot of that other shit didn't work out of that. It's sad, but it's true. Because Alien 3 didn't really work. And it wasn't a bad movie. It was made pretty well. It's just not what they needed, and it's just the way it ended was not very good. And then the one Sigourney Weaver made, fucking Alien 4, was kind of an over the top slapstick version of Aliens. It's almost, even though it had some great moments in it, it had some great ideas in it, but it was still kind of like the Escape from L.A. of the Alien series. Which, see, there should have never been an Escape from L.A. It should have just been Escape from New York and leave it the fuck alone. All right.
Well, yeah, because
Russell did good.
The premise of Escape from New York is kind of a one and done.
It's a one and done.
It's not like that set of circumstances is ever going to happen again, like in that same way.
Right.
It's just strange credulity. Yep. You know what I mean?
They should have done something else.
Slasher Fred said, "I love the Exorcist theme, Tubular Bells." I do as well. Yeah. My dad had it on vinyl back in the old days, Mike Oldfield, and he used to listen to that all the time, and I thought that was really, really cool. Now, I will say, though, that I really, really like, and we've reviewed it and talked about it a lot of times. If you haven't seen it, Exorcist 3 is great. Because it goes, Father Karras is in it, but sort of, but it does a different thing. It's almost more like a murder mystery, and it doesn't really do, it has an exorcism because they made him put an exorcism in there, but it's not really about that. It's more like a murder mystery, and I kind of like that because they went like in a little sideways with it, and I thought that was cooler.
I'm gonna tell y'all, Snake Plissken fans, Escape from New York shit is some secret. There's a movie out there, I think it's called Lockout or Lockdown, and it really should have been called Escape from Outer Space. It was gonna be a fucking Snake Plissken movie.
How can you escape from outer space? Outer space is kind of like everywhere.
They had an orbital space station that was an orbital prison, and Snake Plissken gets sent to it, and they capture some girl that she's like the president's daughter type of deal again, and he's got
again
one of that kind of shit. She's some kind of hostage, and he gets sent to this prison on a secret mission, basically to go rescue that prisoner and come out of there and escape from outer space and come back. It's gonna be. It was some. I think it was called Lockout or Lockdown. It had the dude that played Wayland in fucking Prometheus. What's that guy's name? He's a pretty famous actor.
I know who you're talking about. I just can't think of his name.
What that guy's name is. And but I guess they couldn't get Crussell to do it. Crussell might have been a little too old at the time. But that should have been a.
Yeah, Crussell's playing Santa Claus these days.
Yeah, he's playing Santa Claus. This was, I think, 2000. In the year 2000, I think is when that movie came out. Lockdown or Lockout or something. Pierce, what's his name? Pierce? No, I forgot what that guy's name is. Guy Pearce?
Yeah.
Guy Pearce. Yeah, he's in it.
You know what's really weird that you mentioned Guy Pearce, because for some reason today I randomly thought of The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I need to watch that movie again. I love that movie. I think I have it on DVD somewhere, and Guy Pearce is in that as well.
Yeah. Yeah,
but,
Hugo says it's called Lockout. Yeah, Lockout is good. And it's a Snake Plissken movie. They just couldn't get they just couldn't get permission to call it Snake Plissken. You know, but that's what it is.
Did you show me that movie? That sounds kind of familiar.
I think you watched it once.
I don't remember a goddamn thing about it.
It's pretty good. It did have a little bit of cheese in it. It had some violent comedy in it, but it wasn't as cheesy as fucking Escape from L.A. Which Escape from L.A. had some good ideas in it. It's just that the tone was a little wrong. It was a little too zany.
It also had a lot of really bad ideas in it.
Yeah, it was very much a comic book movie. When that was not the tone of fucking Escape from New York. It was kind of serious. You know, it's pretty good.
Oscar says, your dad played Tubular Bells on vinyl. That explains a lot, Jenny. It does, doesn't it? But yeah, he used to play that all the time. Lars Ulrich says, it has to be said, Max von Sydow and Stellan Skarsgård, who played Father Merrin in this, are both from good old Sweden. That's what I was thinking that too while I was watching the movie. I said, that's really cool that they actually did get a Swedish actor, because Max von Sydow is Swedish. So it's cool that they actually got a Swedish actor to play him instead of like somebody doing like a fakey Swedish accent. I was like, that's nice. So at least they put that much thought into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what? I think because I saw Max von Sydow like in The Exorcist when I was a kid, I didn't realize until I was probably a teenager that Max von Sydow was Swedish and had actually been in all those like Ingmar Bergman movies, which my favorite of which is Hour of the Wolf. If you guys have ever seen that one, that movie's creepy as shit. If you like David Lynch movies and you want to see where like David Lynch got some of his weirdness from, that movie is a good place to start, because there's like a lot of weird Lynchian shit in there. Oscar says Guy Pearce is underrated. He really is. I mean,
he's a good actor.
Like I said, I loved him in Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Is this an ABBA turd? Yeah, that you'll if you see that movie, you know what I'm talking about. And also, what was the other one? Oh, Memento. Did you see Memento?
Mm.
The movie that was like, it's like a murder mystery, but it's in backwards order. Christopher Nolan directed it. You'd probably like it. That was actually the first.
Backwards? I don't know.
No, well, it's not backwards. It's the scenes are in reverse order, because the guy has that memory thing where you can't form new memories.
Yeah, no, probably.
So he keeps. No, it's not. It's really, really good. Seriously, it's done really, really well. That was actually kind of the first movie that brought Christopher Nolan to like wider audience, because everybody loved that movie so much.
Yeah, Jason, Solid Snake from Metal Gear. Yeah, that actually is a direct ripoff of fucking Snake Plissken. That's who they're talking about. Metal Gear. Metal Gear was when that first Metal Gear came out. It was basically a ripoff of Escape from New York, basically.
Tammy says Guy Pearce plays a great baddie in Lawless. Tom Hardy movie about moonshiners. Yeah, you brought that up before. I wrote it down. We just haven't got around to watching it yet.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
We got to see that one, because man, Tom Hardy and Guy Pearce.
Yeah,
we got to see that.
Yeah,
Hugo says
Lawless.
Hugo said Memento is awesome. Oscar said Tom would consider Memento a masterpiece. Okay. Yeah, see, I think he would. I know when I say it like, oh, it's in reverse order, you'd be like, oh, that'll drive you. It's really not that hard to figure out. Okay. I promise. It's actually really, really good. It's a good story. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember really liking it a lot. So so Exorcist the beginning, it's on Tubi.
It's not bad.
It's actually Well, here's the thing. It got nominated. Did it win? It didn't win any Golden Raspberry or Razzies or whatever they call them. It didn't win, but it got nominated.
Okay.
And then I was wondering to myself, if this was a movie that got nominated for a Razzie in 2004, did the Razzies only nominate like big studio films? Because I was like, I for sure could think of like a lot of really, really shitty like indie movies like from 2004 that were way worse than this, like for Christ's sake.
Like the old Catwoman movie, that got a Razzie. Didn't it?
Well, that was bad. It wasn't
as bad as they said it was.
Well, no, but that was worse than this. It was worse than Exorcist at the beginning. I did not like that Catwoman movie.
That movie, yeah, whatever.
But the thing about it was like...
Part of the problem with the Catwoman movie was the costume. The costume looked fucking stupid. Yeah, it did have some stupid fucking plot elements. But man, a lot of superhero movies are fucking stupid. A lot of them.
That's true. I mean, I'm willing to give movies a lot of leeway because honestly, I like bad movies. As long as they entertain me, I don't give a shit if it's stupid or not. Yeah. But it's like, I don't know. Like I said, the worst thing a movie can be is boring or like not entertaining. If you're entertaining me, whether it's good or bad, then I'm all for it. I'm just saying that the Razzies, it seems to me that movies that I've seen that got nominated for Razzies, I think they kind of just stick to big studio pictures. Yeah. Because I guess they would, because it's like they don't want to nominate like a bunch of random ass like indie movies that nobody's heard of.
No, it's got to be something they spend a lot of money on.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of want like, and plus they probably want the name recognition or nobody would like talk about it.
You know?
Yeah, because you spend like $100 million on something. How can that suck?
Right, and it sucks.
Then it sucks.
Like Cats. How bad Cats was.
That was just a poorly conceived idea. I mean, it wasn't a bad idea because you could see like that fucking musical has run like since dinosaurs roamed the earth, and like it's made all the money in the world.
Everybody's horrible.
But then they make it so there's like a movie version doesn't sound crazy on its face. Yeah. But I don't think the problem was the idea. It was just the execution. Well, it was just too uncanny valley.
That and nobody showed up to see it. That's a big thing of it too. They just nobody gives a shit about that. Or the movie going audience doesn't give a fuck about Cats.
Yeah, that's more a theater experience. That's a theater thing. I feel like it didn't really translate.
Show that to tourists. Old tourists that come to New York.
I mean, some musicals work well in movie form, obviously, but that was definitely not one of them.
Well, I think they tried to sell fucking that musical that what's his name West Side Story recently, and that bombed. And that was fucking George Lucas or
no, it was Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
Although I heard it was actually really good.
Yeah, but nobody sees it. Nobody sees them.
I wouldn't mind seeing that. I liked the original. I liked the original West Side Story.
Just something you watch on the Xbox.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd go to a theater and see it, but I wouldn't mind seeing it because I liked the original a lot.
Yeah, they just say they evidently, I was gonna go see the Batman, but I'm saying fuck it, that'll be on TV in another month.
Although we're still paying for that fucking theater thing. I mean, we might as well go see some shit. Otherwise, it's like a waste of money.
We just haven't had time.
Yeah. I still want to see that X movie. Yeah. So, that horror movie. Did that Black Phone movie ever come out?
I don't know.
I kind of wanted to see that Blumhouse one.
Yeah. AMC just makes money of people having the app and forgetting to show up.
Yeah. Well, it's more of a hassle now because it's farther.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, before it only took like 10, 15 minutes to drive there. Now it's like a whole ordeal. Like it takes like 45 minutes. Like 40 minutes or something.
It's all surface streets.
Yeah, because it's still the closest. We moved this far away, and that's still the closest movie theater.
Well, what's funny is that we're bitching about it. It's only 12 miles farther than it was.
I know, but it seems a lot farther.
It's only 12 miles farther.
It seems a lot farther. Yeah. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we'll wrap it up for today. So tomorrow's main show, and I'm sure everybody will be excited because we're talking about that Jimmy Savile, however you pronounce his last name. The that British television personality that they found out was a perv after he died. Well, he kind of knew he was a perv before, but he didn't get caught for nothing until like after he died.
Johnny Rotten knew.
Well, a lot of people knew. Like I said, a lot of people knew. There was like all kind of rumors. They just didn't have any proof. But so we're gonna do like Dermot sent me a whole bunch of documentaries about it. Bye.
I thought we were shutting it down.
Dermot sent me a whole bunch of like documentaries.
Let's go ahead and do another show.
Documentaries about it. No, I was just finishing up.
Okay.
You're so rude. She just like gets up and leaves. He doesn't even like say bye to anybody or anything. He's just like, well, I'm just wandering off.
I'm gonna be back on here tomorrow.
How do you know? You might get hit by an asteroid tomorrow.
Get struck by lightning.
Yeah, you don't know. Anyway, so yeah, we'll be back tomorrow talking about that perverted British dude. Mm-hmm. So thanks everybody for dropping by. Thanks for super chats, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow evening. Bye.